Do you think your establishment would benefit from somebody like me coming up with mental health guidelines? Or just schools in general?
Yeah, I think education in general is looking for something new. I think the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter movement, like I think those things are just microcosms of much bigger things that have happened over the last couple of years, where if you got any good sense, like, there's a need to do education different. And so, yes, I think there is a need. I think people have a desire for that work. It's really about creating a plan that speaks to that from an educational setting.
Okay. What would you say speaks to the heart of the kids from what you've come to observe? Because a couple of times, I think your emphasis in this conversation has been, are we listening to the kids? Tell me how important that is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really big part of the work, and that changes. And I think what kids need today, what we needed as kids, is very different from what the kids need today and what kids will need for years to come.
Tell me more.
But I think at the root of that is this. Like, I think at the end of the day, kids want to feel a sense of belonging, and they want to feel loved.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that needs to be tapped into more. For some of our kids, making good grades and being successful academically speaks to them.
Yeah.
But for some of our kids, that doesn't, because that's just never been a priority.
Can you give me an example of that? Where like it may not work for one, but for the other, it's what's needed.
Yeah. So, we have students that are in what we call an accelerated pathway. So these are students who, based on their data, have an opportunity to excel academically. And so we provide them with classes that accelerate their learning. And they love that. Like, it speaks to them. Like, them taking the test and scoring really high on the test is like...
They don't get bored.
Right? So they're yearning for those experiences. One, because education has come very natural for them over the years, or they come from a household where, that has been pushed, and they see examples of how having an education and being successful academically can provide you access. But then, and it's easy to propel them forward.
Yeah.
But then you have, students who are very intelligent. Like, I don't think the issue is being intelligent. Like, they have the skill set, they have the ability to be successful, but they haven't had as many opportunities to exercise that, whether it's because of biases that people have had about them over the years, or if it's because of, environmental factors that have impeded their ability to like tap into those things. And so they take a little bit more work in terms of getting them to understand the importance of academics. So they're not going to initially respond to, oh, you have an F in my class, you got to bring this up to an A in order to pass, or in order to, progress and be successful in a school setting. They're going to respond more to some of the intangible things, some of the intrinsic things, like, yo, does this teacher actually know who I am? Do they know my name, right? Do they know my name? Do they know my family, where I come from? Do they know my experience? Like, do they know what I come to school thinking about on a daily basis? Like, what do they know about me, and how are they responding to me as a person? And through that, do I feel love? Do I feel a sense of belonging to that teacher, or to that school or community? Like, do I feel like I'm a part? Do I feel like I'm heard? Am I seen? And I think those are things that it's easy to overlook if you're just focusing on the academics.
When it comes to teachers, are teachers implementing different forms of, hey, this is me showing you love and talking students through that? Or is there time and space for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, social emotional intelligence has become a very big piece of the educational space. And I think we have been very intentional where I currently am around creating those spaces where you can build community with your students, with families, without it impeding, the learning process. And just understanding from, an adaptive perspective, like you can't have one without the other. And so, and I think we have thought of doing anything outside of academics in a very formal way. Like social emotional intelligence does not have to be formal all the time, right? Yeah. Like it's not a formal thing. Like
it's not supposed to be.
Yeah. If you can have a conversation with a kid, just a smile for a kid, a hug, asking them how their weekend was.
Teachers are allowed to hug the kids?
Yeah. I mean, I think of course, like we have to follow, CDC guidance around social distancing and everything. But like, I mean, there are ways to engage your kids in such a way where you can have those informal conversations to let kids know that they feel loved or that they are loved.
Have you ever thought of implementing teaching a class where kids get to choose what their appreciation language would be? Because love language and appreciation language are the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's just the words. And I think teaching that class may give kids an opportunity to learn, oh, I do like that.
Yeah.
And learn to not just choose, but recognize, oh, this is something I'm into and I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. I think there's a space where that can definitely take place.